Hey everyone, welcome to Dose of Truth Tarot Chats. I'm Eloise Ansell and this is Terryann Nikides.
Yeah,
I always say your name different every time. Nikides.
You do. I like the way the phone says it. Terryann Nikides. It's like, who's that?
Who's that? Who is that?
All right,
so we're going to look at another suit this week.
Yeah,
if we have a majority in a reading. Yeah,
we did cups, so this time we're going to do. Let's do swords. You know, these are two really interesting. Well, they're all interesting, but two really powerful ones, like the emotions and the swords. And we could build up on it too. Is if you put a lot of air, swords over the cups, it's going to stir up the water a lot more. So stir up your emotions. So if you have, let's say, an abundance of swords, what is it telling you? So yeah, sure, you're gonna, if you have, now you could kind of think of the other suits there. Or, well, you've looked at the elements, and if you haven't looked at the elements, you could take our tarot.
Oh yeah, challenge. You can take our challenge that we did back in February. We have the videos available. I'll pop the link to that below.
Yeah, and that way you can work with that as well. But let's just look at an abundance of swords. Now, in the swords case, most of them are kind of ugly looking, right? 3 of swords, going through the heart. 8 of swords is interference, and in the Crowley deck, there's storm clouds, and 5 of swords, they're just all over the place, right? 9 of swords, cruelty. 10 of swords, ruin.
A nightmare.
Yes. Well, 9 of swords is the night, usually represented as the nightmare card. So, all right. So think to yourself before I say it, why would swords, be so wicked looking, right? Well, number one, they're swords. And what do you do with a sword? You stab yourself with it, right? So
I did that this morning. I stabbed myself. The first thing I woke up this morning, my nail went into my other finger. It's like, poor little thing. Yeah, literally stabbed myself. Yeah, but it's the words that we say to ourselves. We're the cruelest people to ourselves sometimes with our words.
As long as that narrative of the mind is just conditioned, right? And it just repeats things over and over and over again, and we believe it's true. And until that, well, there are a lot of things that go along there, right? The mind, the nervous system is linked to, the mind, and it communicates through the myelin sheath, right? So all that information and data is constantly running through the system, and we've got beliefs about who we think we are, which is again a thought. I think I am this or I'm that. So all these thoughts, they're not very nice, very different from the intellect, right? If you pull up the Queen of Swords, her function is to use the intellect, which is very different from the mind. The intellect is part of the mind's functioning, right? But the mind is filled with data. If you think of Ho'oponopono, it's just data, and we, do all this kind of really bad analysis, self-analysis. We do it all the time. I see people analyzing themselves like, well, it sounds logical, but absolutely abhorrent. And as you said, absolutely mean to oneself. And of course, the meaner it is, it depends on what kind of ego you have. Some people have more negative ego. So it's like the more negatively I talk about myself, it's almost like, well, the Greeks do it a lot. It's part of our tradition. You don't want to flatter anybody or, say too many nice things, because then you could jinx yourself.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to do that. And then some people have a positive ego. They're very happy to say how great they are and how smart they are and what their talents are. And, it took me years to be able to say, okay, I do have an ability, and to,
value that.
value it or really understand it's just natural, and I'm valuable as a human being. Well, no, there's no, you can't put a value on you or me or anybody as a human being. There's no way to put a value. So even valuable is part of our thinking process too. I know you know this, but it was a good word to use because, traditionally most people go, well, I need to value myself. But the more you're trying to value yourself, the more you find things that you think are not valuable, and you keep going back and forth between the two. So it's like, well, just dump the value altogether. You have no value. There can't be a value put on the human being. You are priceless, right? You are priceless. Absolutely priceless. So these natural things that come out of you as an individual, whatever they are, and probably most people, one of the things that I loved doing was evoking from the querent what they're good at. And most people have blocked it off, right? So one of my favorite exercises too is go back to when you were a kid. What did you like to do most? And they'll say, well, I like to play dolls, or I'd like to play baseball. Okay. What else? And you slowly evoke what they liked. And everyone's, there isn't an infinite possibility of what someone, would be doing as a kid, but there's infinite combinations of all of those coming together that create you as an individual. So Eloise and I have similar careers, but we're very different in the way we carry it out. We're very different in the way we speak about things. We have our own unique way, and there's no value you can put on that. It's priceless.
Yeah.
It's priceless to go to a different teacher. It's priceless to go and listen to somebody else's viewpoint. One stupid thing I did as a kid, this is all swords by the by. So my sword head, and I would go into my swords quite often, was people always tell me to write a book. You should write. You have so many things to say. And I sit down to write now, like, that's been said before. That's been said before. That's been said before. It's dull and boring. Why would they want to hear it from me when they could just go, instead of me writing the book, my stupid way, because it's unoriginal and it's dumb, why don't you read people who really did it? And it's taken me years and years, and I'm still not. Well, to appreciate more that there's a particular way I understand things, and I see things that some people like. They find it interesting, right? And
it's always going to be your stories and your journey, which is going to add so much to it. It's completely different to someone else.
Completely different, even if we're talking about the same subject.
Yeah.
Right? Even if you're talking about tarot, it's all the same cards, but each reader has a different way of looking at things, and it brings a richness to us as an individual, a richness to, I love going back and seeing these obscure people who've done, little writings. From what I found, there's not much that Jung did personally with the tarot, but people do write about his interest in the tarot and the images, because he was full-on archetype guy, right? All about archetypes, the collective unconscious, and that's where we delve. So if you see a bunch of swords, and remember, they look negative, and they can be very negative. If have a dominance of swords, especially like 9 and 5 and 3, these are tough things to go through. Tough. But let's say you get the 10 of swords with those cards and the Tower. That's going to be a hard time. It's going to be a hard time. But it is a sacred moment. It is the sacredness of you breaking down, the thinking that is conditioned, that has kept you, in the same old patterns. And, so many of us ask for a shift. I want to shift in consciousness. I want to shift in awareness. I'd like to be enlightened. I'd like to have more peace in my life. I'd like to be more self-realized. I'd like to, have more ease in life. We ask for these things, but we have no idea what it entails to get there. Because whatever is, so just imagine that these swords construct our reality in the box we live in. If you pull out some of those swords and they start to fall down, then your whole tower or the 10 ruin comes down and the heart comes out. Oh, okay. That sounds good. Yeah, yummy, yummy. Oh, good. It's all going to break. 9, we're going to end the cruelty, and 10, it's all going to break down. Yeah, how resistant we are to doing that? Because the moment all those swords go, it means we're going to let go of control. It means everything that we know is going to fall apart. It's like, even though it's air, it's as though the whole basis of our lives are going to fall down, which is great. It's great after, but the process is not fun.
Not comfortable at all.
Not comfortable. So there's that can occur. Or somebody is very, oh my God, I can't get everything done. I can't do everything that I need to do. I'm failing as a wife. I'm failing as a mother. I'm failing in my job. I can't. Yeah, exactly. That's overwhelm. That's the thinking. So that's very materialistic, right? It's all about the material world, about the doing. And we get stuck in it. We think, well, if I can control all of that, then I'm going to be fine.
Yeah, or if I'm thinking and doing all the time, then everything will be fine.
Yes. And that way I don't feel my emotions. I never transform. All I'm doing is I keep getting under wraps. And that's when we get fried out. Nervous systems, that's when we get, got to take therapy. Look, come on, how many people are on meds? During the couple of years past of lockdowns, suicides, depression. I mean, it's just insane to be left with your mind, and you're not willing to, I used to call it breaking the mind. So you can't break the mind literally, you can't, but breaking the structure that holds everything together under the guise of, if I could control everything, then it'll be fine. And then we pay lip service to, I wish I could just let go. Yeah, you probably do, but you probably don't. So these are really interesting things to look at when you get a dominance of swords. And like I said, the Queen of Swords usually indicates a good intellect.
Yeah.
But if you have a good intellect, and then all these swords coming out, it would mean now she's got a bad intellect. Her intellect is lazy. It's misused. It's used to try and control everything. If I just get a little bit better at this, I'm going to feel more worthy. I'm going to feel better about myself. It never works. It never works. You get that momentary high that you succeeded at something, and then boom, you fall down.
There's that little hit of, I don't know, dopamine or whatever it is. And then
you get an endorphin hit. Oh, I succeeded. And then all of a sudden you're crashed again, and you're on to the next drive to avoid the whole idea of transforming. So some people don't. I mean, obviously you can have a client in front of you or a querent in front of you who doesn't really give a damn about any of this. I just want to know, that this is going to work, and that's going to work, and that's not going to work. So I just tell them what's going to work and what's not going to work. But there are moments they get really upset, which is predictable if you've got a lot of swords, when you tell them that a certain thing is not going to work. And then you go, well, you're going to have to rethink this. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than in your imaginings, right? Usually this is where we're going to go, but you can't always. There's always a detour. There could be a volcano, like you said last time. There could be a storm. You might trip and break a leg. You never know what can happen that disrupts you on your path. So swords usually can indicate, hey, you've got a dominance of your mind and over controlling. Or the other side could be that it's leading to, a clearing. You're about to, shift that awareness. And usually I see that as, let's say, these are some of my favorite combinations. You get the devil, then you get the tower, and then rebirth. Like that's a beautiful combination, but there are many other variations to it. Like if you got the 10 of swords and the tower, it's like, okay, you're coming, and the 9 before it, let's say that happens often, 9 of swords, 10 of swords, and not often, but they can appear close together. And then you get the tower, it's like, okay, you're in the worst part of your self-criticism and, trying to control everything, but it's going to break. So the 10 in Crowley has all the swords, but there's a heart in the middle, and you see the swords could break down and your heart comes up, right? In the physiological sense, it's when the head brain dominates the body, that's not very good. Then you don't have the heart brain harmonizing, and your gut brain can't make the decisions because your head brain's trying to dominate. So the gut brain has to make the decision. You get indigestion, you get gas, you get all that kind of stuff that is bothersome, even to the point of cancer, right?
Yeah.
So colon cancer or something. Or malnutrition. Somebody could be overweight.
They could be eating but not taking the nutrients.
Yeah.
Or something.
And they're starving even though they're really fat.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of interesting ways to look at things. So take a peek at your swords, see where they're at. It could be really boring too. Like you got, the 2 of swords, which is peace, and then maybe a 3, and then maybe a 6, which is nice. Like, okay, this person kind of deals with whatever comes up. So when there's something difficult, okay, they deal with it. If you have a 2, 3, 6, it's like, okay. So it's kind of not so important. There could be something else dominating. Maybe it's fire, maybe it's the majors, maybe it's which one did I miss so far? Coins. All right, so we'll do fire in the next video. All right, everyone. So thank you for being on. Share with us.
Yeah.
And please hit that like button. Smash.
Send us a comment, any questions. Check out our website for some more info, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.